Welcome to this video on extending the cardinality constraints. My name's Andy Wicks, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make your entity relationship diagrams full of even more information. Let's start at the beginning. Entities within a relational database are linked to other entities. Well, I should hope you know that already. And eventually all links should either be one-to-many or possibly one-to-one if you're using subclasses, and subclasses are the subject of a later video. However, there are a variety of ways in which a one-to-many can happen, and in this video we're going to look at that as well as seeing how we have to view everything from both ends of a relationship. So let's start with an ordinary relationship. This is an example of a relationship taken from the second-hand bookshop example that we've been using throughout these videos. We have a title entity and a publisher entity. That is nothing special, and with a bit of luck you should know which side is the one. Obviously there'll be one publisher for any particular title, so we put a 1 there. Now let's see which side is the many. And I'm sure you'll be shocked to see that title is the many. So we have our standard one-to-many relationship. But we can extend this a bit more and give a lot more information. So for example, we may want to know whether we have to have a publisher for a title. Well, somebody's got to publish that book, so therefore the minimum number of publishers must be 1. So we add an extra bar to the end of the publisher entity relationship. So now we have 2 bars there. But what about the title? Could a publisher not have any titles? Well, that sounds silly, because how can you be a publisher if you don't publish? But in this case, we're looking at a second-hand bookshop scenario. And it may be that we've skimmed a list of publishers from the internet, and that for some publishers we don't have a title. So the minimum number of titles for a publisher would be 0. So we can add that 0 to the title entity. Some people call this optional. Unfortunately, in database design, there's an awful lot of duplication of terminology. So, what describes the relationship between them? Well, a publisher publishes a title. So this describes the relationship between these 2 entities. And we've made that relationship a lot clearer now. And when it comes to actually creating the database and constraints on the database, we can add a lot more information if our diagram contains all of this. But let's have a look at some examples. Here's an example with an intersection entity. One author can write many titles. One title could be written by many authors. Therefore, we would have a many-to-many relationship, which, as we know, isn't allowed. So let's create an author-title entity in between. Well, if we look at an author, there must be at least one author there. So we have a double bar. That's the one end. At the other end, there must be at least a title. So at the other end of the many here, the rights relationship, there must be another bar. There must be a title, because otherwise we couldn't have author-title. And in the same way, we have title to author-title. There must be at least one title, and there must be at least one entry in author-title for that relationship to exist. So we can say both author and title must exist for there to be an entity in the author-title table. Now what about this second example? Here we have title and category. Title to title category has to exist. There must be a title, and there must be a category for that title. So at the either end, there is a minimum of 1 for that has relationship. However, for category and title category, it's not necessary for category to have titles. There may be some categories that we've got that don't have titles on our shelves. We may not stock history books, for example. So that could be 0. So category to title category would have a 0 on the end, or an optional. A title must exist for an entry in title category. However, not every category will have an entry in title category. Therefore, the minimum number of rows with a particular category can be 0. I hope that clarifies this a bit.